Keeping track of time is a problem people have struggled with for thousands of years. Some of us are still struggling. I just can't seem to get anywhere on time.
There's one thing you learn when you come to Switzerland. Accurate timekeeping isn't just a courtesy, it's a national tradition.
That's why I came here to the Musée d'Horlogerie Chaux-de-Fonds.
Eileen.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Doesn't matter.
Nice to meet you.
For those of you who don't speak the language, it's a museum with timepieces of all ages. Maurice Altermat, with the Federation of the Swiss Watch Industry, showed me some of the oldest ways people measured intervals of time, like this sand timer, or this candle.
This candle goes back to the Middle Age, between 7th and 8th century, and it's a very simple division of time.
This is what you could call a very old alarm clock. The sundial keeps track of the passing hours, but at high noon, when the sun hits the magnifying glass just right, it ignites the fuse and the cannon fires. But these early timepieces had their pitfalls. For one, they weren't very reliable, and craftsmen had to develop new ways to measure time more precisely.
The accuracy of clocks began to be an issue because, in a sense, minutes weren't even invented until the 1600s. Before that, the best timekeepers would be within an hour.
That's master clockmaker Bob Ockenden.
A clock is, I guess, merely a machine to record the passage of time.
Yes, but how does it do that? Sure, you can invent a machine that stores up energy, then releases it through a series of gears that turn hands on a face. But how does that machine know how fast or slow to turn those hands? Well, it turns out a clock keeps track of time by counting something else.
Well, the important thing in a clock is to have a regularly oscillating body.
An oscillating body is something that moves with a precise, consistent rhythm. And that's what the clock can use to mark off the seconds, minutes, and hours. The real breakthrough came when Galileo discovered that a swinging pendulum provides exactly this kind of dependable regularity.
Well, Galileo discovered that essentially once a pendulum was put into motion, even when the swing decreased to a relatively small arc, the interval of time that passed between the two sides of the arc would be the same.
So in other words, it's going to take the same amount of time for the pendulum to swing with a big arc as it does with a small arc.
We don't have to take Galileo's word for it. We can try it ourselves. Okay, we've got these two pendulums. They're on the same length string. If I let them go from the same exact point, it takes exactly the same amount of time for them to get from one side of the arc to the other. Can you see that? Now this time, I'm going to try letting them go from different places. One from way up here, one from down here. Ah, can you see that? It still takes the same amount of time for these pendulums to get from one side of the arc to the other.
The weight of the pendulum makes no difference. The only thing that affects how long it takes the pendulum to swing from one side to another is its length. The only way to change its time period is to change the length of the string. Pendulum clocks revolutionized the timekeeping world. As long as you remember to wind them up, they kept accurate time. But still there was a problem. They weren't very portable. So craftsmen had to develop other smaller ways of regulating their timepieces. And that led to the development of wind-up watches, which keep time using a balance wheel and hairspring. The balance wheel rotates back and forth. It's controlled by a hairspring, which expands and contracts with the same kind of regular motion that a pendulum has. So it provides another smaller way of accurately marking off intervals of time. But the most accurate watch around today is the modern quartz watch. Here's the very first one, made in Switzerland in 1967. It keeps track of time by counting vibrations of a quartz crystal. An electrical impulse makes the quartz vibrate at a regular rate, more than 32,000 times a second. A microchip counts the vibrations, so it knows precisely when another second has passed.
By dividing the second into very, very small units, accuracy enhanced greatly.
Both of these types of watches are made here in Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland, the watch capital of the world.
Yes.
Willie
And then
Schweitzer
what are
showed
these
me
for?
around the Gerard Perregaux factory where these exquisite watches are made. Many by hand, some with the help of machines.
So Willie, what kind of work are they doing here in this room?
Well, in this workshop we are manufacturing the main elements of the movement, that is to say, of the engine of the watch.
Of course, working with such tiny pieces can be difficult.
Tell me about the setup of the room.
Well, as you can see, all the workshops are oriented towards south, so that we have all day long the best possible light. Second, the benches are at a certain height, so that the workers will not suffer from the back. And third, you see that all the benches have green surfaces that will rest the eye.
You know, finding out how watches and clocks work has given me a whole new perspective. I may even have this tardiness thing licked.